Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Agree to Disagree. Today, I'm your host, Jack Acella. With me, as always, is Dean Gutik, Noah Schwartz, and Aiden Shard. We have a great show for you lined up today. We're going to do a quick Week 4 recap. We're going to talk about the deserving but surprising firing of Texans' former head coach and GM, Bill O'Brien, and we're going to talk a little baseball because I know one Mr. Jeremy Goldstein is dying to hear it. But anyway.
And the NBA Finals, Jack. You forgot one.
Oh, yes. And, of course, and the NBA Finals. My mistake. My apologies. Anyway, let's get right into it with Week 4 recap. Who would like to take it away?
I'll start.
For football, I can start.
Oh, go ahead, Aiden. Go ahead.
Is there any games we want to focus on, or are we just covering the week?
You just cover the week. If there's one thing you want to focus on, then go for it.
Well, in that case, I think we should start with probably the elephant in the room in the Titans-Steelers game that was supposed to happen. I don't want to focus too much on it, but, that game was supposed to happen. The Titans got some positive COVID tests, so it got postponed. Now, the league is saying the Titans have not been following protocols since then and now have more positive COVID tests. Looking like that matchup with the Bills this week is currently in jeopardy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's such a shame, and I'm not a big fan of the whole forfeit thing because I think there's other ways around it besides just having to forfeit games. One suggestion I heard is to get rid of the week between the conference championship and the Super Bowl. And
there's not going to be a Pro Bowl already, so that could be a possibility too.
Right, so then get rid of that extra bye week that typically the teams get and then allow for an extra week of regular season and then you just push everything back a week. So maybe that could be a possibility, but I'm not a fan of the whole forfeiting thing because I think that's unfair to everyone on the team. Whereas if it's true that guys were getting together and working out and being exposed during the whole pandemic, then I think that you should only punish the guys that were specifically involved. I don't think the whole franchise should be part of that.
I disagree a little bit. I've talked with Dean a bit about this, but the Steelers game, I don't think that's worthy of a forfeit. Not at all. But here's what happened. The Titans got COVID tests positive. Then they were told by the league and the team to not practice with other people from the team.
Even their own coach apparently told them.
They then did practice with the team. Multiple players got together, and it wasn't everybody, but it was multiple players, including Ryan Tannehill was one of those people.
Yikes.
And now have more positive tests and are putting another game of theirs in jeopardy. They should get in trouble for that because football is different from baseball. You can't play 2 football games in a week. You can't play doubleheader football games, So
hold on, wait. So
through the Bills?
So you think that they should just have to forfeit? What about suspending those guys? What about fining them? What about making them sign guys to the practice squad? Because I just don't think that taking a loss for, the random guy that's the backup right guard that wasn't involved in this, like why does he have to be punished and take a loss for something he was not obviously involved with?
I just think, they members of the team knowingly put the rest of the team and the league, honestly, in danger by breaking the rules. They knew they were breaking the rules. And yes, I do believe they should get fined. But here, what happened with the Steelers is the Steelers basically got shafted by this whole thing. The Steelers were prepping for the week like it was going to be a game, not like it was going to be a bye. And then the Friday before their game, they're told they're not playing, which means they get a week to rest, but they missed 3-4 days of rest already. And now they don't get another bye later in the season. They're already getting screwed by this. If the Titans saw that happened and then knowingly let it happen again to the Bills, they should not be able to play in that game.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Aiden. And even, when we talked about this earlier, and I'm just like, hearing this stuff and thinking, if I'm the Bills and the Titans keep this up, I would not want to play the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. And no, let alone I wouldn't want to even be near the Tennessee Titans. There was, of course, a report going out the Titans could get a severe punishment. They could get hammered by the league, which they honestly deserve to. A week or two later, and you're still testing positive, you're going to put other teams and others in danger. I heard apparently they didn't use the watch the NFL gives them, or they don't wear masks, which, increases the risks. These guys are hanging out and caring less about the virus, which like it's nothing. Even I heard from on Twitter from NFL Draft Diamonds that apparently Mike Vrabel even told them to, the facility shut down and they still go to practice. These Titans players aren't taking this seriously. And, I do agree with the forfeit thing. As a Bill fan, I don't want it this way. I've talked to you earlier about this, Jack. I want my team to actually step into Tennessee and beat the Titans. But, for a team that's doing stuff like this, it has to be that way. There has to be some sort of punishment. You can't punish or blame the Bills or Steelers. These teams can't suffer from something they didn't do, for something they can't control, that this is the Titans' responsibility.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting situation on how the NFL handles it. Titans did not do the right thing here. They should be severely punished. I think draft picks will definitely be forfeited. I think that's a guaranteed. They will definitely not have a first-round pick going into this year.
I don't know if it's going to be first-round pick off of.
Yeah, I would say a late-round pick.
I would say as of now, it's probably fourth or fifth round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
High enough to make an impact. But if they do this again, it's probably it could be a first-round pick.
Like going off to your point though Aiden, about how like the Steelers, like it's not a full week, but also not even that, because this changes their bye week. Because I gotta say, having a bye week in week 4, I really think I always hate that. I feel like it does nothing for any team. But for example, the Steelers, I think they had a bye week 8, which in my opinion I think is the best week for a bye. It's right at the halfway point. You can get players to come back for the second half of the season. I always think that's a great opportunity to get your rest, get rejuvenated. Like in week 4, you're still in the beginning, so I just don't like that. That's a huge disadvantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But overall, I'm not going to go into too much detail. The Tennessee Titans, I'm sure, will be punished in some way, and that will happen in time. So let's move on to a couple other games.
Let me raise my hand, Jack. Call on me. I have something to say.
Okay, I think I know what it's going to be, but can I
Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
No, I wanted to guess it. I wanted to say, how about the Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? Okay, so I was actually trying to think about what happened on Sunday, and this came to me, I think it was on Monday, after they just had that embarrassing loss at Cleveland. And, it's really strange why a team that has this much talent is so inconsistent and terrible in first halves, and why they lose games they shouldn't lose. And then I realized exactly why this is, and it just came to me on the fly. So let me put it this way for you. The Cowboys, I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but I think it's definitely the case. The Cowboys have an identity crisis. They are the people that have a mansion, a giant mansion with a bowling alley and a basketball court and a nice cars, but yet they don't have running water, and their refrigerator doesn't work and can't keep food cold. They are the team that thinks that instead of putting together a competent defense where you really need those guys to, limit the amount of points you're giving up, instead they go out and have 6 wide receivers that are just phenomenal and have a CeeDee Lamb and a Amari Cooper and a Michael Gallup and all these stars. They're all fluff. Nothing that they do is really legit. It's all fake stats. None of those things contribute to winning, and that's why I say they're the guy with the big mansion without running water, with nice cars and a basketball court and a bowling alley in their house. They don't know who they are. They think that they're a championship team because they go out and sign an Everson Griffin, a Datari Poe in the offseason to fill their little holes with one-year veteran players on short contracts. But instead, they're the team that needs to go out and develop younger players and draft well and pick guys who you really need in the first round. Don't go for luxuries. Go for guys that really can actually help you in the short term and fill the holes that you have. They're terrible. Oh, Aiden's gone.
We just lost Aiden, so
So would you agree with that? Because Jerry Jones thinks they're Baltimore or Kansas City, and instead they're a middle-of-the-pack football team at best.
Well, I agree with parts of that. I don't necessarily think I don't agree with your analogy to 100%. I don't even know if it's so much talent on their defense. I think more so it's who's running the defense. I think Mike Nolan, I wasn't happy when they made when they made him the defensive coordinator. I was never a big fan of Mike Nolan. I also think he's kind of weird. I remember when he was like the head coach of the Niners, he tried to bring back like the head coaches wearing suits. So he's kind of strange.
I heard it was a favor. The reason McCarthy hired him is because he had hired McCarthy at some point back when he was in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was kind of just like as a favor, hey, be my DC. That doesn't make sense.
That's another thing that's funny, because you mentioned San Francisco. Mike McCarthy was the guy who had to choose between Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers in the 2005 draft, and he chose Alex Smith, and then he ended up coaching Aaron Rodgers. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, Mike Nolan's a horrible coach, and it was ridiculous that he got the job. Mike McCarthy, he's never been good at hiring defensive coordinators. Mike Nolan, horrible. Dom Capers was good for like 2 to 3 years. That was pretty much it. And then he kept him for like another 8, and he was horrible. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But on the offense, I mean, I can't really blame the offense. You can't.
Hi, Aiden.
Hi, I'm calling in for my phone right now because I think my power's about to go out.
Ooh, Lord.
Oh, Lord. Oh,
yeah, they're crazy thunderstorms. So if I leave again, I might not be coming back.
Okay.
Oh, God. Alrighty, so we'll try and we'll move this segment along quickly. So anyway, I think the Cowboys, they just got to clear up their defense. Maybe they bring in Earl Thomas as some extra leverage. I don't know. It's kind of funny if you think about it now. Maybe the Cowboys, maybe they enter the take for Trevor, because realistically they should be 0-4, with barring a miracle. But
Well, I got to say this. So people are going to give Dak all this credit for the 500 yards, and he has put up big numbers this year. Of course he has. There's no debating it. But that team, and it starts with Dak and Zeke, they've got to wake up in the first half. Because if you fall behind, this is what you're going to face every week. You're going to have to make miracle comebacks. You're going to have to score 40 points to beat people. And you've got to establish the run game early. You've got to make sure that you can just keep yourself in the game in the first half, even if your defense isn't playing up to par. And if Dak has to go out and score 25 points in a half to keep themselves in it in the first half, that's what they have to do. I feel sorry for the guy, but he had it made for his first 4 years. And this is the first time where they've had a significant weakness on this football team. So he's got to make up for it. It's his 5th year. He's a star. Do your job, man. Go out and throw 400 yards if you have to, but don't let your team fall behind and get out of the games early.
It's, it just seems like, especially if you're the Cowboys, they try to dig themselves out of a hole, but you can't expect to win games like this all the time. You only beat the Falcons because you knew who you were dealing with, the biggest chokers of the century. You were gifted that game. They were down, what, it was 41-14 or something like that?
41-14,
yeah.
41-14 at the end of the third, and then 41-20, I think, in the fourth, or 41-21 or something.
Going into the fourth, they had a 1% chance of winning.
You can't dig yourselves in a hole all the time and expect to win games, and that's what Dallas keeps doing.
I don't know if it's been said. Noah, it's kind of similar to what you said. I saw this tweet that was like, the Dallas Cowboys are like Hawaiian pizza. All the ingredients separately are really good, but you put them together and it just doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yep, perfect.
It's an identity crisis. It really is.
They have one of the best offensive rosters ever assembled in the history of the NFL. Just the amount of talent that is on that offense is insane. The problem is they were being touted as the defensive team this year. People were saying, look at this defense. They can stop anybody. And what have they done? They've let up an average of 36.5 points per game. That's the highest rate in the league.
They're on pace to have the worst defense in history.
Exactly. They've let up over 38 points in the last 3 games.
And it's hilarious, too.
That's ridiculous. You cannot do that and expect to win games. Take other teams that have had bad defenses in the past, too. I'm all familiar with bad defenses and great offenses with the Saints. But even in those seasons, the Saints were going 7-9 with crazy offensive production, but every once in a while, their defense would actually have a good game. It wasn't all about outscoring the opponents. You can't win games, even in this division, just by hoping you can outscore somebody.
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to disagree with you guys on one point. Dean, you said they're on pace to be the worst teams of all time. How dare you take that title away from the New York Jets after they gave up 37 points to a third-string quarterback who had 1 day to prepare? So you don't take how dare you give that title to the Cowboys? That title belongs to us.
Oh, please.
Right, so let's talk about those New York Jets, because this is interesting.
I would love to talk about the New York Jets.
All I'm going to say,
Yes!
I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This is going to be a nice little one. I'm just going to say this. It's been said. Adam Gase needs to go. I didn't think he could do anything worse. And this week, he really just says, hold my beer. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do anything worse. The thing that bothered me the most this week, I don't even care that the defense stunk. I don't care that Darnold, with the exception of one run, didn't even look good.
He did look good. That's not even true, Jack. He's thrown who the heck is Jeff Smith? And the guy got 80 yards on 7 catches. Darnold played well.
He should have had 3 interceptions, and you know that.
Well,
right. Anyway,
he was better than I thought he was going to be honest with you.
Anyway, the problem that I had this week is the way he handles this roster. Mekhi Becton. This man is a first-round pick. He's your prized possession. He was injured throughout the whole week. He didn't practice. So he's used in case of emergency situation. why is he even active if he's not capable of starting? And then he had to go in there, and he already injured, and he had for 17 plays, and then the injury got worse. And now
he's probably going to miss this week.
Yeah, he's probably going to miss a few weeks. And same thing you did with Darnold. I know Darnold's going to miss this week also. I know Darnold's already been ruled out for this Sunday. So literally, I don't even think I'm going to watch a Jet game because there's nothing that I absolutely care about.
The only interesting point of the Jet game is how many yards does DeAndre Hopkins get on this horrendous secondary?
I am going to be very excited for this.
I hope
game.
he does. In our league, he was my first round pick.
He might go for 250. I swear to God.
Might have the day.
Yes,
I'm predicting NFL record most receiving yards in a game.
I hope.
What is the record?
Right.
280.
I think it's. I'm going to look it up right now.
I think it's 280.
It's over 300.
It is over. Oh, I didn't know that somebody had gotten 300.
Over 300.
Okay.
What is it, Calvin Johnson?
But here's the thing. I think it was Calvin Johnson. Yeah. If you told me before Thursday night's game that the Jets were going to be playing against the third string undrafted rookie quarterback who had never played a game in his life, against a team that was missing their starting quarterback, their starting wide receiver, and $40 million of other players, and got 3 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, it would have been ridiculous for me to think that the Broncos would have won that game. And yet they did.
No,
who was the Broncos quarterback again? What was his name?
Brett
Rypien.
Rypien, right. He didn't even look good outside of a couple throws.
No, he actually did. I'm going to be honest with you. Outside of those couple throws, the Jets made Brett Rypien look like he was Joe Montana. I swear to God.
I thought it was – yes, that's fair. But I was considering playing against the Jets outside of a couple great throws, like the one where Judy just mossed Desir.
Yeah. I've never in my life
– didn't look that great.
Never in my life have I seen a guy get 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick six, say he had an awful game.
He was awful the other day. Awful.
It was really just target Desir. If Desir wasn't doing anything, he got 2 picks, kind of lucky if we're being honest. They just kind of fell into his hands.
Oh, absolutely. He should have had 3.
He didn't play well. He didn't make good reads. Rypien just threw it to him.
Yeah, you're 100% right. But it's just that the only reason Adam Gase is still employed is because Christopher Johnson, he came out and he said that he's brilliant, so he'd look like an absolute idiot and he'd get completely destroyed by the media if he came out and fired him 2 weeks later. So that's the only reason he's here. That's the only reason here. And honestly, I'm going to say this right now, and honestly, I don't think any of you guys can disagree with me. The Jets are going 0-16. I'm sorry, but if you can't beat the Broncos, a third-string quarterback coming off a short week, who are you going to beat? They're going to play Seattle. They're going to play Kansas City. They're going to play they're playing Arizona.
New England twice. The Bills another time.
Bills twice. New England twice. You're not going to beat any of these teams. I can't say they're not going to go 0-16.
No, the only team they have a legit chance of beating, in my opinion, right now,
Miami.
is maybe Miami or the Bengals. But the Bengals are even better than the Jets. Way better.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can move on. Let's talk
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, the next thing we're going to talk about, Bill O'Brien was surprisingly fired this past week, although it was very deserving. I can agree. I think we can all agree nobody saw it coming.
I think you're right in that it was surprising that it happened now, but it's not surprising. I would have expected it at the beginning of before the season started. I wouldn't have been surprised, or after the season ended, but mid-season, that is reserved for the worst of the worst coaches.
Well, outside of Adam Gase, he's the NFL's worst coach. He's by far the NFL's worst coach outside of Adam Gase.
I think I'm going to be able to get back on my computer, so I'm going to hang up and hopefully be back in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I'll say about this.
Oh wow, we got 2 Aidens on.
Yeah, we got 2 Aiden Shards in here.
That's
anyway,
wow.
Here's what I'm gonna say about this whole thing. It really just is. It's kind of very sad how this whole thing happened, because if I look back, the whole Texans organization. If I look back to 2018, after they lost to the Colts in that playoff game, I mean, they're a young team, they're a little inexperienced. But when I looked at that team and I was like, this team's future is so bright. Deshaun Watson, he got off to a slow start that year, but he figured because he was a little cautious because of his ACL, but he got it together. They won 10 straight games, and they won their division. They made it to the playoffs. Then they obviously had Hopkins. Then when you look at their defense, they had J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and Tyrann Mathieu. They had 3 leaders And they had a bunch of good players like Cunningham, McKinney, Justin Reed, Kareem Jackson. They had a bunch of really solid players all over the field on defense.
Jonathan Joseph was one of the NFL's best corners for a while.
Yeah, they had.
I was a fan of him too.
I think no one can argue. I think they were probably a top 5 defense at that point.
They were.
They had an up-and-coming franchise quarterback. And then just slowly, Bill O'Brien, as soon as he got that GM title, he just completely ruined that team. It started with trading Clowney. I mean, I could understand you trading Clowney as the result happened. He wasn't great, but clearly he was a better fit in Houston than he was in Seattle. And as a number 2 guy, I think he worked perfectly aside J.J. Watt. And also, they didn't re-sign Tyrann Mathieu, which I completely thought was a mistake, and you see the impact he had on Kansas City. And then, of course, the Hopkins trade, which is awful. The only movie I could say that honestly that worked out for them, I'm going to say, is the trade for Tunzel, because he's been a beast for them.
Except now the Dolphins own the picks for this year.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it was a good trade in that he got a great quality player
Got an all-pro
for,
talent.
all things considered, a good price. But
No, they got no. They gave up 2 first-round picks. That is not a good price.
It's not a good price.
He is worth it if they don't make the Hopkins trade. That trade is a great move.
Agreed.
Yeah,
because the big thing
now
with
that
them
they've
is
made the Hopkins trade,
they had already
going to
lost
not do well this
Deshaun.
season.
They already lost Deshaun to the ACL, and they had an awful offensive line. So they knew, okay, we've got to figure out a way to protect this guy. We already have the weapons. We already have the defense. Let's just go all out and splurge to make sure we have his blind side protected for the next 10 years. So I'll defend the trade, but if you're looking on it now, as you say, Aiden, the Dolphins own the picks. They have absolutely no cap space because I think they have the highest payroll in football this year. And
I think it's the Saints.
I thought maybe one first or second. I thought it was.
How is it
Texans.
not the Cowboys?
No, I believe it's the Texans. I'm almost
Because the Cowboys
Texans have the
won't pay
highest
Dak.
payroll.
Still, everybody else on the Cowboys roster is worth so much money. Ezekiel Elliott, they have the highest paid offensive line. Amari Cooper.
So anyway, whatever. The point is they have no cap space and they have no first round picks going forward.
They have no assets. Even you saw this draft, they barely had any draft capital.
They don't.
I mean, I'll say this, and I discussed this with Jack. The Clowney trade, I give a little bit of a pass for because they did get Laramie. They did eventually get Clowney. Eventually didn't work out for Seattle, but it's the amount of assets that they also gave up. It's the DeAndre Hopkins trade that definitely that sealed the deal. I mean, Bill O'Brien was. How do I say this?
Bill O'Brien,
the worst coach in the playoffs last year, the worst playoff coach, should I say. He was just fortunate enough to be in a soft division, before this year. And as a GM, you could see, when you're a coach and you give a guy like Bill O'Brien GM powers, you can't give a guy like that any GM authority because then that's what's going to happen. And the Texans got rid of him, and it's a well-deserved move, a move that was coming.
Hot take.
I'm going to disagree.
The Jet job, when it becomes open, when they fire Gase, it's a better job than the Texan job. It is because Trevor Lawrence, if you get the number 1 pick, you've got tons of cap space. You've got so many draft picks off the Jamal Adams trade, and obviously they're gonna deal other guys.
The Jets is easily the best job. The Jets is easily the best job to go to.
And you can trade Darnold, and you have your quarterback, and you've got your whole future set up. So they're a better job than Houston, despite having Deshaun Watson.
I want to say something about Bill O'Brien. First of all, and then I have a hot take about Bill O'Brien. First of all, Bill O'Brien suffers from the Belichick syndrome, which is where he thinks he's as good as Bill Belichick at the things that Bill Belichick does. Because we've seen it with the Patriots. What Belichick does is he gets players that are going to be great, that he knows they're going to be great. They build them up through the system, and then they don't re-sign them because Belichick knows he can find a million more players exactly like him who can fill that role.
Yep.
And that's why the Patriots have been so successful. They get guys on crappy contracts, on rookie contracts for cheap, for nothing.
Yeah.
And then sell them as soon as or kick them to the curb as soon as they ask for more money.
Yeah, the biggest example of that, I want to further your point.
So the reason the Patriots have been able to do all right while losing superstars. Bill O'Brien thinks he's the same. Bill O'Brien thinks, I can find a million DeAndre Hopkins. I can find a million Jadeveon Clowneys, but he can't because he's not that good of a coach. Bill Belichick could. There are a couple coaches in the league that probably could have been fine after trading Hopkins or after trading Clowney. Bill O'Brien is not one of those coaches. But here's the other thing that I want to say, and this is a hot take. I think Bill O'Brien's job would be safe. The Texans would be 3-1, 2, and people would not be making fun of the DeAndre Hopkins trade if Bill O'Brien just didn't try to justify the trade by forcing the ball to David Johnson every single play. Bill O'Brien wants to make that trade look like it makes sense. So he is making Johnson run it when Watson is a better passer than Johnson is a runner. He's not letting Watson run. You know, he's holding back his team, or he was holding back his team to make that trade look better instead of just letting the team talk.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair point.
I 100% agree with you on that, especially what you said about Bill Belichick. The biggest example I think can think about is pretty much they drafted Chandler Jones. They let Chandler Jones walk for nothing, and then they got a guy like Trey Flowers. Like he's not as good as Chandler Jones, but he's a pretty good pass rusher.
Kyle Van Noy, Jack, same way.
Kyle Van Noy, they just fill the holes. But
Yep.
Pretty much what you said, and it's kind of funny. Like before last year in the Kansas City, before they lost to Kansas City, before that game, I always thought Bill O'Brien he wasn't a great coach, but he was always a solid coach. You know, he did what he had to do. Before that game, he never did anything that made him look absolutely stupid as a head coach. And also, I want to disagree with you on one point, Dean. You said like they always won in a lackluster division. Before last year, I have to disagree with you because the year in 2018 when they won and they won the division, the Colts were 10-6 and the Titans were 9-7. So I got to disagree with you on that point. But otherwise, like when he became GM, that's when it all started to go downhill.
Yeah. I think they should trade J.J. Watt, too. I heard that Colin Cowherd said that yesterday, and I heard it on his show, and I was like, oh, that's a good point, because you can actually get some real draft assets for J.J. Watt, and, of course, you clear cap space, and it's not like he's this all-world player anymore anyway. I mean, he's still good, but if you bring him to a contender, he's probably a lot more valuable in a smaller role at this point.
You know, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I mean, J.J. Watt is a little bit like the Russell Westbrook of this team. You know,
Yeah.
he's been there for half of the team's existence at this point. He is the Texans player. He deserves so much better. He deserves to get that ring. He doesn't have much longer, and you could still get assets for him. But then what a better idea or an idea could be for the Texans, which I think could be good, unless they're planning on sticking with Romeo Crennel next season, which I don't know why they would. Jack or Noah, like you said, the Jets' job is looking a lot better right now because the Jets have cap space. So the best thing the Texans could probably do this year is scrap the roster, get rid of all the players with the high payrolls except for Deshaun Watson, keep him and Tunsil, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Lose Watt, lose Still,
McKinney and
lose every. Just get rid of him.
I 100% agree with you. There's only two guys
cap room.
on the roster worth keeping.
You get draft picks.
There's only two guys on that roster worth keeping. 100%.
That's a good point. I like that. I think they got to keep Brandon Cooks too because they just gave up a second-round pick for him.
I'm gonna have to agree.
You got to justify that, but otherwise,
yeah,
I think that's kind of all we got for that.
Yeah, that's all we got for that. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk some NBA right now. Currently, after last night, the Lakers they won Game 4, and they currently hold a 3-1 lead over the Miami Heat. And LeBron is looking like he is on his way to getting his 4th championship ring. So I'll let Noah take it away because I know he's ready to brag about this for weeks. So
actually, I'm not going to brag. I'm happy they were able to win on what was yesterday? Tuesday. I'm happy they won yesterday, but I haven't been impressed with the Lakers in 2 games. Now, in Game 1 and 2, and you guys know this, they were dominant. The Heat had no shot. Now, in Game 3, I think that was a lot of it was a lack of focus, a lack of coming in with just the energy needed to just stomp out the Heat. Because if they would have won, Game 3, the series would be over. And Jimmy Butler was so sensational, and he totally outplayed any of the Lakers. So they were not good in Game 3. But it was surprising because as bad as they were, I figured, all right, it was their one bad game. Let them come out in Game 4 and dominate again. They did in the first 2 games. And last night, and I know we talked about this, Jack, yesterday, but LeBron James came out totally passive. He came out, looked like he had a lack of energy, like he didn't want to shoot. I mean, he only took, I think, 1 or 2 shots in the first quarter, and he did not look very good at all. Finally, after he had an 8-point first half, he came out in the second half and dominated and obviously had 20 points on his way to a 28-12-8 game, I think it was. And Anthony Davis finally woke up in the second half also, hit the big three. But this was more about what the role players did, really. I mean, KCP was excellent last night. Rajon Rondo yesterday was outstanding. Kyle Kuzma continues to play well. Alex Caruso. This was more about what the other guys did than what the stars were doing carrying this team, because as much as their numbers may have looked good, they combined for, I think it was 50 points. They haven't played well in 2 games. I do think that changes on Friday, and I think they realize that they have the Heat under wraps. I mean, it's over now, and they can just knock this thing out of the park on Friday and be done and win their ring and move on. I think they all want to go home, so they're done with the bubble. Let them finish off Miami on Friday. Do it in a dominant performance. LeBron wins Finals MVP, and he's got ring number 4.
AD
definitely takes Finals MVP. The way the finals have gone so far, it's AD, unless the Heat make a miraculous comeback or LeBron James has the most insane Game 5 you've ever seen. I think it's AD.
Yep.
He's outpaced LeBron by just enough.
I think AD deserves it, but the media is going to give it to LeBron.
Oh, of course the media is going to.
Well, I just think that LeBron's shot creation has been so special in these playoffs and really all season that they don't have anybody else to get other people the ball. And it's like, yeah, AD's a great scorer, and he can put the ball in the basket at will, and he's got the matchup advantage on pretty much every defender on this Miami team. But at the end of the day, he can't score if he doesn't get the ball in places where he has an advantageous position. So that's where I see LeBron getting it because of his assist numbers and the way he plays point guard, setting everybody else up.
I disagree with you on that point just because AD, it feels pretty much unguardable. Just get him the ball. Anybody can just dump it in there and get out of the way. And he just works. That's just my opinion. I mean, I know I'm not going to take anything away from LeBron. He's been he's been a phenomenal playmaker this season. I'm not going to say he hasn't, but either way, I think AD deserves it. He deserves it more so, especially at the end of that Game 4, hitting that clutch 3 and that clutch block on Jimmy Butler. Those are Finals MVP plays. Yeah. And overall, I'm still going to say, even if LeBron wins his 4th ring, obviously, I will always say LeBron. I will always say Michael Jordan is the GOAT. I think this definitely, if there's any debate otherwise, I know some people are still like this. I think this absolutely secures LeBron as number 2. If anybody ever had any debate, like if it was him or Kareem or him and like Bill Russell or people like that, he's got number 2.
Bill Russell's way ahead of him. No, I'm kidding. Even I'm not that Boston strong. No, I mean, I don't think there's much to say at this point. Lakers are going to win. The Heat haven't put up as big of a fight as I think most people expected them to.
They've had a lot of injuries.
I do hope the Heat win Game 5. But, I'm still rooting for the Heat.
I know you guys are. You just want to see the guy lose, but he won't.
No, it's not. It's not that much about LeBron. It's more about the Lakers for me.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that from you, but from Dean and Jack.
As a Clipper fan, you can't support LeBron, or the Lakers, should I say. So you should know that it's a given. Just like how Aiden Celtics hate the Lakers, the Clippers dislike the Lakers. You do realize you can't root for your crosstown rival. That would be like the New York Islanders rooting for the New York Rangers in the final. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that again, Jack. Let's go Islanders, baby. You just don't do that. And I'm not going to, by the way, I forgot to say to you, I'm not going to discredit LeBron. He's a great playmaker. I just think AD all playoffs and in the finals has had a lot of momentum. He's been doing a lot for the team, and I think he's brought a lot to the table. He's been scoring. He's been playing lights out.
No, his Game 2 was historic. That 14 of 15 to start the game, I've never seen anything like that before. Yeah. That was unbelievable. That shooting display was something that I've never seen in an NBA Finals game, more or less any playoff game in my life before.
Yeah,
I can remember.
Yeah, this is my last point. I've already said this. I mean, this series clearly should have been the Lakers, and honestly, this series should have been a sweep. It should have been over last night. They never should have lost Game 3. That was ridiculous how they lost Game 3 in that situation. So Miami Heat should be proud. It really should have been 4 games in their situation. They got it to probably 5. Maybe they can get it to 6. I'm not really sure. But either way, the Miami Heat have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Nobody thought they would get this far. I predicted they would go out in the second round to Milwaukee just because I thought they're inexperienced and they're too young and they're missing a couple pieces. But they shocked the world and they made it to the finals, and they made it to within probably 3, maybe 2 games of winning a championship.
I will say, the Heat, morally, I would consider this a victory for the Heat.
Walk out
Successful
with your
year.
head held high.
Successful year,
exactly.
100%.
When they lose this series, Jack, you said it perfectly. They're going to walk out with their heads held high because they No one expected them to make it to this point. Not a lot of people probably expected them to make the playoffs. No one expected them to make it out of the second round.
I remember people were laughing at Jimmy Butler and like, why would you go to the Heat when they?
Yeah, me. I laughed at Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, like
and now they're the best team set up to get another superstar in the league. The next guy that comes roaming, whether it's Bradley Beal or we'll see about what happens with Giannis, they are really well positioned because they're young and they're experienced already. They already have guys who have played in big games, but they're still young, still on the rookie contracts. They're in as good a spot as to get a star as any team.
The biggest thing, I think they should either wait for Giannis, or if they somehow can, if like AD wins Finals MVP, if they can somehow lure AD away from the Lakers. That's
come on, Jack.
That's the guy you want to go after. I'm sorry.
Come on.
They need a guy like a stretch four who can stretch the floor, and then like big guy, that elite shot blocker next to Bam.
If AD goes to the Heat this offseason or goes anywhere outside of the Lakers, all right, what's a bet that you guys want me to do? What jersey do you want me to wear? What something that you want if AD leaves the Lakers? Pick it right now. I'll do it.
All right, no, I know. I'm pretty sure these exist because Boston fans love to hate everyone. A shirt that it's like the Lakers purple and it just says LeBron sucks.
I'll wear that. I'll wear that on the show if AD leaves.
Jack, Dean, you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right.
I want you to wear a shirt that says MJ's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. I'll wear either one.
That's better.
Fine. Either one. All right.
Should we move on to baseball?
Yeah. And lastly, we're going to move on to baseball quickly.
Because a minute ago, the Astros were up 7-4 over the A's, and then the A's hit a 3-run homer to tie it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Again, by the time this goes up, you guys are going to know the result. But
I was going to say, I've checked on my phone before. I was going to say the Astros look like they're going to be headed to the ALCS once again, but they just tied it up. Maybe the A's are trying to hold on. Big rivals. But I got to say, the Astros, even though everyone wants them to lose, I got to give them credit so far this postseason. They've really been shocking the world. From where their pitching was last year to where it is now.
Without Verlander, too.
Yeah, I said without Verlander, without Cole. So they have nothing to be ashamed of. It's kind of funny, though, how they really made it this year, because when you look at their superstars' numbers, they looked awful. Jose Altuve was unrecognizable this year. You can argue the same for Bregman. The only guy who really has looked the same is George Springer. Yesterday, he was phenomenal. So,
right.
Go
ahead.
It's going to be close, but I think the Astros are going to take it. If it's not in 3, I think they'll get it in 4.
Yeah, I really love what the Astros have done this postseason. Obviously, I don't accept or like what they did the last few years. I'm not fans of it whatsoever. But I do have to say, and I'll give it up, if you can prove that was a fluke and that you were still the best team regardless of cheating or not cheating, that really gives you a lot of credibility to the other teams around the league. And I think if they can get past the Yankees or Rays, whoever it is, and get to the World Series, I think that would allow that to happen. Not saying they'd beat the Dodgers or whoever would get out of the NL, but I do think that it would help their cause a lot if they could actually get to the World Series without, obviously, the whole cheating scandal right in front of them. So Dusty Baker deserves a lot of credit. These Astro players deserve a lot of credit. They've overcome a lot of criticism this year, a lot of background noise, and they've made it this far. Maybe they'll advance even farther. So got to give them credit. Also on the Yankees Rays series, I know we want to talk about this for a minute, but Davy Garcia pulling him out of the game last night after 1 inning, I bet you guys have a lot to say on it. I found it very strange to put J.A. Happ in the game after just an inning. Really didn't make a lot of sense in a 5-game series. Oh, I think Aiden just lost his power.
Oh, Aiden just lost his power, and I think he's frozen. Yeah. Is he still here?
Oh, he's here.
I'm here. I don't know how, but my life.
That was creepy. You literally went like this. You're like, your face literally looked like you went like an Adam Gase. You're like,
whoa. Wow.
So anyway,
you guys keep going.
I thought it was weird that they put Happ in the game after just an inning. They took this young stud out of the game, Garcia, after just 3 outs. It didn't make sense. And in a short series where there's no rest through this series and also the championship series, if they advance, why would you waste one of your starting pitchers? And you got to put Jordan Montgomery in Game 4 to start the game. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You want to save your bullpen. Try and get as much out of your young superstar rookie as you can.
That's the best I can do.
You look like a demon, Aiden.
yeah.
You look like it's telling like a ghost story or
man.
something.
Yeah.
My phone. I like to okay.
If I was going to say back to the Astros, if they make the World Series, let alone even making the ALCS, I feel like this discredits the sign stealing. Like it, how do I say it? It makes at least get some recognition if you're the Astros for going far.
I agree.
But
Yeah.
the Rays game was interesting last night. The umpire C.J. Buckner was making very questionable calls, especially the ninth inning. There was a good amount of strikes. I thought that was not even strikes, though. It was a ball. But the Rays win game 2, and it's an interesting series now. But the umpire to that game was horrible last night. But I know as much as Aiden, we both hate the Yankees. It was good to see a team like that get messed up, but the umpire was still horrible.
Oh, for sure.
Terrible.
For sure.
What did you guys think of the Dodger game last night? Because
Wait, I want to say something about the Astros and the Yankees.
No, go ahead. I forgot, and you didn't go yet.
I just want to say, okay, of course I'm rooting for the A's in this series. I really hope they make it out. But I can definitely see how the Astros kind of have a fire lit under them after the events of the offseason. Everyone said they didn't deserve their title. They're not good without cheating. And even this season, they looked pretty awful for a lot of the season. People have just been saying they don't deserve to be here right now. And that probably pisses all of them off. So I can definitely see that they have the anger inside of them that makes them want to at least beat the Yankees, who have been the ones that have been complaining the most. But that's also why, I'm rooting for the Rays against the Yankees. But if the Yankees and the Astros make it to the ALCS, I will be rooting for the Astros. And I want to make that very clear. First of all, I hate the Yankees. Second of all, I hate the Yankees. Third, I hate the Yankees. And fourth, it would just make me so, so happy to see the Yankees fans not be able to use, they were stealing signs as an excuse for why they sucked against the Astros. I know it hurt the Red Sox too in 2017, but
you got your title.
It still just made exactly. We got our
and
title.
They cheated doing it, so
that's controversial.
Allegedly. It would make me very, very happy to see the Astros beat the Yankees. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. But Yankees fans, come at me. I'm ready for you. Go Astros if you play against the Yankees.
Yeah.
Aiden, you're making so many enemies. Matt Cain, now all Yankee fans.
It just goes to show I am serious when I say I root for the Red Sox or whoever's playing the Yankees.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say this. I have no love for the Yankees. And besides the fact that another excuse they can just throw away an excuse. We lost because they were stealing signs. If they just were to lose to the Astros or just lose to anybody this season, but also I want to see Astros Yankees because I want to see it's going to be interesting. Garrett Cole versus.
It would be an interesting series.
So, if they just don't even make the World Series, just this year alone, it just shows. Well, I mean, I feel like it's been showing the last couple seasons. It doesn't matter how much money you spend, no matter what big of a superstar you bring in every year on a $200+ million contract, whether it's Jacoby Ellsbury, whether it's Garrett Cole.
Throwback to when
not all it takes to get to a World Series.
Jack, stop saying that. You're scaring me. I know Stevie's going to spend all that money, and I don't want it to go to waste.
Yeah, but Sandy Alderson's going to do it the right way. Sandy Alderson always made good moves. He always made good moves. The Cespedes trade, Jay Bruce was good for a while. The Addison Reed trade. Sandy Alderson is a smart GM, and he will figure it out.
So speaking of moves, Jack, regarding the Mets, Travis d'Arnaud today in Game 2 hit another home run. He had a home run last night that put the Braves ahead. They now lead 2-0, and their starting pitching, which was a weakness going into the postseason, has been huge for them in the first 4 playoff games with Ian Anderson and Max Fried above top the rotation. Those guys have been outstanding. And it's so stupid that they let Travis d'Arnaud go at the beginning of 2019. He'd only just come back from injury. He hadn't gotten off to a good start, and Brody was like, goodbye, Travis. And here he is. I saw a stat today, and I think he's played 105 games or whatever it is, and he has over 100 RBIs since he got cut by the Mets, whether it be for the Rays or for the Braves this year.
Yeah,
he has dominated.
It could just be bad scheme fit, basically. The style of the Mets might not have just worked with him. But
here's what I'll say about this. Travis d'Arnaud always had the talent. I'm not going to say he never did that. I mean, I think he's a liability defensively, but I know he was always a good bat. The problem with him, though, he was never healthy. I mean, and at the time, I wasn't even mad that the Mets got rid of him because they just spent money on Wilson Ramos, but that didn't work out. But anyway, at the time, Travis Darno, I don't even think he ever played 3/4 of a full season. He was always injured for the Mets every single season, even the year they made the World Series. I think he only played, and I think it's like 75 games that year.
Yeah.
And when he came back in, what was it, last year, 2019, in the beginning, he was like hitting less for the first like 30 games or something. He was hitting less than 100. So he was literally worth scraps at that time.
So in the last, here I got the stat, in 140 games since he got DFA'd by the Mets, 26 homers, 105 RBIs in 140 games. Those are dominant numbers from a catcher. Offensively, that's phenomenal. I don't know the average, but I'm assuming in the mid 200s.
Yeah, but I always like
because catcher is not a very heavy hitting position.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And besides, no, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be all worth it once we sign JT Realmuto, so don't worry. But no, I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's going to happen. But anyway, I'm happy for Travis d'Arnaud. He was a big part of that postseason run the Mets made in 2015, and he was part of the 2016 wild card team. So I'm always going to be rooting for him. He holds a special place in my heart. So the best of luck to him, and I'm super happy for him. I just wish he wasn't doing it for the Atlanta Braves. That's the only thing that makes it bad. But speaking of that series, I think the Braves are up 1-0. That series, I hope
2.
2-0.
I thought they only played one game. 2-0. I hope that series both teams lose. I hate the Braves. I hate the Marlins. So, but the Atlanta Braves are going to take it, and they will lose to the Dodgers in the NLCS.
It's looking like my pick of having the Padres win the World Series is not going to be correct.
I hope they do. I would laugh so hard if the Dodgers didn't make it this year. Not because it's just funny, just because I feel so bad for them. Because, like, what else could you do?
I don't. They took Mookie from us.
Well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jack. Is that it we got for today? I think we've talked a lot about various topics. We've done a good job.
Yeah, quickly, we'll go through our winners and losers. I think Aiden and I are winners. I'll start. My winner.
I did losers last week.
Yeah, we're losers.
Aiden, I think Aiden and Noah, you swapped, right?
Yeah, I swapped with Noah.
Oh, that's why I was confused. Okay. All right. So Aiden and I will be losers. You two will be winners. So whichever one of you wants to start, take it away.
Noah?
No, Dean, go ahead, Dean.
All right. So I've a winner and loser at the same time and one winner. My winner, of course, and this will be related to the Oklahoma game, is Iowa State quarterback Brock Purdy. Because Iowa State, of course, Oklahoma loses back-to-back games. Spencer Krappler decided to show up once again. Brock Purdy, the GOAT, of course, decided to say no to Oklahoma. Iowa State put up a hell of a game. It was a great game to watch. I'm honestly really happy for Iowa State. Iowa State, huge winners, of course. And my winner and loser at the same time is my beloved Buffalo Bills. Loser because they might not play this week. Winner because, a few people picked against them and said that it was all luck from week 3 heading into week 4, but the defense got it done. And 4-0, they're rolling. Josh Allen's playing like a MVP candidate right now, but that's all I'm gonna leave it at.
And Dean, you're also a winner because who did you beat?
Oh yeah, take it away from me.
One of Dean's winners is himself because it was a very tight matchup, but he came out on top in our fantasy league, defeating Noah Schwartz.
Okay, so Julio Jones didn't play in the second half, so I lost by 3 points.
He didn't play after the third quarter.
I lost like 4 points because Calvin Ridley decided to not catch a ball.
You were projected to win by 10 points. Come on.
All right, so my winner is also college football related. It is the Alabama Crimson Tide. They played their second game of the year on Saturday. It was their obviously toughest game to this point, playing number 13 Texas A&M. And not only did they beat Texas A&M and Kellen Mond, but they beat them 52-24. So an SEC rival, and you absolutely just demolish the Aggies.
I've never
Mac
seen
Jones picked up right where my man Tua left off, threw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and I think Bama is probably the best team in the country. I know people will say Clemson. I know Dean loves his Tigers, but at the same time, I got to give it to Bama. They didn't win the championship last year. They didn't even get to the playoff. They're on a collision course to meet Clemson in the championship game, and I think win it.
I mean, of course, there's also Aiden's Ohio State Buckeyes, who are definitely on top of that list.
And we haven't been able to see him play yet. So I think the Big Ten.
The Big Ten's coming back, though. It's October. The Big Ten's going to come back in a week or two, I believe.
I think the Big Ten is definitely going to make a big splash. I think Alabama Clemson is no doubt if the Big Ten doesn't come back. But now that they are back, it's just making it all that more likely that one of them most likely Ohio State, probably not Michigan because they can't win when it matters, will be in the championship, which they should have been last year. Sorry, Dean.
We got a great game. It's okay. It's all right. You're still 0-4 against us.
It was our right to lose to Joe Burrow in the national championship.
It's okay. We lost. But we got a great slate of games in college football.
All right, I'm gonna go. Well, you guys, I think you guys will find this funny, but first off, I want to give one winner, and then I'll give a loser just because I want to mention it. Winner, I don't really talk about hockey that much, but I got to talk about this. The NHL draft was last night, and the Rangers had a very, very successful draft, getting Alexis with the first pick. He's going to be an absolute stud. And they also traded up, and they took the guy the Devils wanted, and Schneider. They got 2 very good first-round picks. Defensive guys like Schneider have looked very good over the past couple of years. The Rangers are building a great young core, and they're going to be led by Panarin and Trouba. So I definitely think that the Rangers can definitely contend for a playoff spot this season. And my loser, and I think you guys will find this funny, because I was going back, I was watching our one of our 1306 Sports counterparts in GoChat. I went back and I watched their fantasy draft just because I wanted to see it. So I was watching it, and I remember I got mad when he took Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Instead of me. So he like his reaction to that comment. He's like, Jack is mad that I took Josh Jacobs. I don't know why. They were bashing me for taking DeAndre Hopkins my first pick. And Matt and your boy Matt, he came out and said they're gonna hate the winners. And now you look at the standings and everything, and GoChat, 2 of them are 0-3, and 2 of them are 1-3, while I am sitting atop in first place. So my loser is GoChat because they don't know what they're doing in fantasy football.
All right, you guys are definitely going to be seeing that one early. That's going on the Instagram.
Yes.
So my loser this week, we talked about it a bit already.
4-0, baby. All right.
It's NFL coaches, specifically the ones that are on the hot seat right now. Typically, it takes a while for the first one to get fired mid-season, and then
please God, make this a domino effect.
The floodgates are going to open.
Please God.
And Quinn's next.
He's not next. Please not.
Please.
I did not expect at all for Bill O'Brien to be the first one fired. That being said, he was probably the best coach of all of the coaches that are likely to be fired this year. So possibly before the season ends, we could see Matt Patricia fired. We could see Adam Gase fired, although we all know they're not going to fire him.
Yeah, Jets don't do that.
We could
only Rex Ryan, who was actually good.
No, he didn't get fired in the middle of the season.
Oh, no, but I mean just in general, they just fired him at the end of a couple of bad years. Go ahead, Aiden.
The point is, we can see there are a lot of Dan Quinn, you guys mentioned, could be fired. There are a lot of coaches that might not make it the rest of the season, and those are just probably the 3 that are really on the hot seat. A couple of bad teams do have some younger coaches. You talk about the Giants and the Dolphins. So we'll see what happens, but this is just the first firing of many, and I would not want to be the next one.
I would want to see the next one.
I said I would not want to be. I do want to see.
All right, so this has been another edition of Agree to Disagree. We talked some sports. We had some laughs. Just follow us on Instagram at Agree to Disagree _VIC. Oh, my God, I can't even think.
Aiden, you look like you're creeping me out over there.
Follow our friends at 1306 Sports on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. And we will see you guys next time. For Noah Schwartz, Dean Gutik, and Aiden Shard, I'm Jack Casello. Have a good night.